Hare Krishna. Let's move to the next part of the program. We'll discuss about 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in the next continuation of the series Gita Rahasyam, Secrets of Bhagavad Gita. We'll start with small bhajan. Hare Krishna Mahamantra itself, simple tune we can do. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजाताम् सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare He Gopalaka He Krupa Jalanidhe He Sindhu Kanyapate He Kamsantaka He Gajendra Karuna Parina He Madhava He Ramanuja He Jagatraya Guru He Pundarikaksha Mam He Gopi Jananatha Palaya Paranjanami Natvam Vina Hare Krishna. So this sloka is from Mukundamala Stotra. May Krishna, the spiritual master of the three worlds, protect us. Continually bow down to Krishna. Krishna has killed all our enemies, obeisances to Krishna. From Krishna alone this world has come into being. Okay, not this, I'm sorry. O young cowherd boy, O ocean of mercy, O husband of Lakshmi, the ocean's daughter, O killer of Kamsa, O merciful benefactor of Gajendra, O Madhava, O young brother of Rama, O spiritual master of the three worlds, O lotus-eyed lord of the gopis, I know no one greater than you, please protect me. So we'll continue in our next session of chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita. Oh, yeah. So this is called Purushottam Yoga, or the Yoga of the Supreme Person. So actually according to the calendar we say, some say Adhikamaas or so on, like where for every 2.5 years we get an extra month added. So usually during that month we recite these verses of 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, because it speaks about like spiritual world in detail. So so thank you so much Aparna Mataji for amazing kirtans. It's always difficult for asking like to like let you see stop the kirtan and continue. We want to hear more of you. It's very nice kirtans. Mataji took us to like Lord Ram's kirtans and then Pandharnath and so on, like and Hare Krishna mantra. Such an amazing experience. Okay, we'll continue like the 15th chapter. So I will tell you some brief introduction. Actually, there are many schools of thoughts in like even under the Vedanta. So I will tell you a small story. So according to this Nyaya, like logic and so on, like in the Vedic times how things used to be, is there are some stories in Vedanta or like say in the Upanishads or so on, where like say Shankaracharya or some Advaita Sannyasi used to give a commentary, and then like a thesis how we submit, like in terms of hey, like Isaac Newton has said this but Albert Einstein has said that, like that how it will be. Like that Ramanujacharya or like other school of thought, if they want to establish their sampradaya, they'll give an alternate view to the same point. One such story I'll say, like I heard from Radhika Raman Prabhu's class, this one, that is, so there is a boy, a Upanishad boy called as Nachiketas. This is not, there is another Nachiketas where he's a son of, he's a prince, and then he'll go and have a discussion with Yamadharmaraj. It's a very, very, very nice story. We'll speak about it some other time. But this is like a Vedic boy, Nachiketas, who goes to Gurukul and so on. So, so they used to live in huts right that time. So once when this Vedic boy is stepping out of his hut during night time, so there is a rope that is lying around in his corridor. So he steps on it and looking at the rope, he gets afraid, I snake like that, and he gets off. So actually the like Shankaracharya writes a commentary on this saying, this is exactly how a jiva perceives material world. There is nothing, according to like Mayavad or Advaita is like there is nothing, and from nothing we are just getting afraid by thinking there is something, and so on. But Ramanujacharya writes a very nice commentary on this. Like he writes, so there is this nice to and fro with this. It tells, this boy stepped on the rope and said, "Oh, snake," and he got afraid. Yes, there is no snake, but there is a rope. Then Ramanujacharya tells, this boy didn't step on that, like he stepped on the rope and he didn't tell, "Oh, cat or dog," like that, right? He told snake and got afraid. That means there is a similarity in the characteristics of a rope and that of something that he is afraid of or something that he is comparing to. So then he writes that a Jiva and Ishvara are two different entities, though they have similarities, but a Jiva can always, like whatever we are seeing in the material world, it's not some random like interplay of like coming together of material elements, but there is some original thing that is there, like a spiritual world, which it's a replica of. So one of the praman that we give is this chapter. So first verse, it begins with that. So like how all that we are seeing is actually, this phenomena, everything is actually replica of something that is there in the spiritual world. Today we'll see in 15th chapter how Krishna gives that description. So there are some fundamental differences. Spiritual world is like a real mango tree on the bank of a river. Material world is a reflection of that mango tree in the river. So I'll go into deep depth of it. Like so we'll see some of the houses where there are like marble flooring, which is made of real marble. But because not everyone can afford, you can see in some of the houses in India, they have this imitation flooring. Like it looks like a marble and all, but if you over the time or like if you put some pressure and all, you can see that it's not a real marble, but they just use some covering. So basically material world is also a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. And like how there is real currency, fake currency, real mango, and there is like imitation mango, like that there is a spiritual beauty and something which we think as the material beauty is something which we confuse often about. So one of the comparisons that they give is that like usually in the material world it's filled with some suffering. Like you try to pursue any thought, oh, if I do this I'll be very happy. Like we have so many experiences like with our life. Oh, if I buy this I'll be happy. If I get this I'll be happy. If I go to that state I'll be happy. But it's never that case. Wherever you go, there is something that is missing. So basically our life is actually, if we like from our previous discussions we see that we have like a sanchita karma, a global account, a bank account of all our doings, good doings and misdoings, and which is like proportioned like in some partitions of these two into several lifetimes, and that is what prarabdha karma is. So basically that's why you see so for example we were preparing IIT or like IEEE in India that time, which are very competitive schools to get into. You know, there might be some students who are putting so many number of hours more than like a topper or like someone who bags the rank, but some people just doesn't get it. Some people get it with a less effort. It's same with the job searches, financial freedoms, or whatever it is. For some people they try to implement an idea without proper thinking, but it turns out very well. Like one of the example Radheshyam Prabhu gives is like now the media that is going is Anil Ambani's son's wedding. So this guy like he opened his eyes and he is like one of the richest persons on the planet. So this why these difference in these things are there is actually the karma theory that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. We'll go into some of this like in the third quarter he'll speak about this. So there is a world which is filled with this suffering. All the mirages we try to chase, but it will never fulfill. But there is some impressions of what actual happiness is, or what that absolute thing that we have. That's why we are searching it in a wrong place basically. And there is another thing which is called peace. That is like Brahmajyoti, or someone who wants to attain that impersonal liberation, it is said in yoga. So as compared to the material world, impersonal liberation might appear better because one of the examples I heard recently is about like husband and wife are fighting, like there is a quarrel between a couple, let us say. So they fight and all, but they come to, before coming to truce, so there is this temporary phase of going into peace. Okay, we are straining each other, like you do your thing, I'll do my thing, so temporarily they go on like that. So that is that peace region where it is. But afterwards they realize, okay, what we fought is like a petty thing, and then let's continue our life together, so on and so forth. And that is actually the spiritual bliss comparison that I had. So that is like, Brahmajyoti is like that. It's a temporary stop where it appears like the material sufferings ceased to be. But there is a fundamental aspect of a jiva that is missing there. That is, with our individual identity, that reciprocation of love from the Lord, that is what missing in Brahmajyoti. So in Vaikuntha we'll see, I'll show some of the verses also, like it is so festive, it is so vibrant with everything that is actually engaged in the glorification of the Lord, and Lord reciprocates correspondingly. And before that happiness, even Brahmajyoti state is also not like a permanent thing. So, like the so-called material beauty that we look in the world will dwindle. So all that opulences that we are running will fade away. So what is that original thing that this material world is a replica of, that we will see in the first verse. So Krishna tells, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, you can say this verse, next verse onwards I will continue. Urdhva moolamata sakham asvattam prahuravyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam vedasa vedavit. So here Krishna tells, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its root upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of Vedas. So have you ever seen a tree which is upside down in the world that we are seeing? So why Krishna is saying that is what all we are seeing is actually a replica of a mango tree that is on the bank, and what we are seeing is actually a replica of that tree. That is what Urdhva Moolam, Athasakam, Asvattam Prahuravyayam. That is, there is an inward banyan tree which is like roots upward and branches down, and Krishna is giving like the equivalence of with the material world. So the next verse also it is said, its branches spreading up and down, Adas Chordham Prashritas Tasya Sakha. It is nourished, watering process by the three modes. Its twigs are sense objects, its secondary roots extending everywhere. So one thing is, we see a lot of things, like we see some glimpses of love, some glimpses of happiness, some glimpses of opulences of Krishna, like in terms of there are some people who are very charming, like all this, but over the time, like there might be most intelligent person like Albert Einstein or so, but it is all temporary. For a bit it runs, but afterwards, like our body we have to leave and it dwindles. But these are actually the glimpses of, like we see trees, we see animals, we see beautiful forests, and like I don't know if you grew up in some rural neighborhood, you will appreciate more about the peace and like the tranquility, like the relationships are very good. So all these are actually glimpses of what is happening in the material world and the spiritual world, that replica that we are seeing here. And Krishna is giving, so now this material tree is there, where we are assuming that this is permanent. So they give this example, like suppose if I'm on some train journey, okay, I get onto the train, say we go like some 10 hours journey or so on. So will we sit and decorate our like couch wherever that we are given? We don't do that. We spend some time, like and then when our destination comes, we get down. So similarly, all this body, this world that is given is like a temporary utility. Basically you have to use this and you utilize in a devotional service of the Lord, perfect one's existence, and then go back to that original place that we come from. So this is we have to use this in such a way that it becomes, we have to facilitate it using this as a property that is given by Lord in going to our ultimate destination, that is the supreme abode of the Lord, that is Vaikuntha. So here Krishna is telling in the 3rd and 4th verses, The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down its strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. So that is asvattam yenam suvirudha moolam asanga shastrena dhrudena chitva. So asanga shastrena is the weapon of detachment, and therefore one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. Tatah padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyaha tamyeva chadyam purusham prapadye yatah pravritti prashrita purani. So like Krishna is telling here, why this is why Krishna is telling here, we don't know where it ends, where it begins, or where foundation is. If you do not come to the association of the devotees and obtain this knowledge, we assume that whatever that we are doing, this is all in all the eternal thing that I am supposed to do. So we do some things, we get into this loop of karma. Oh, you are attached to some things, and based on the thoughts and desires that you have, your next life will be obtained. So we keep going in this loop of birth and death. Shankara writes in Bhajagavindam, right? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare sayanam. I'll born again, die again I'll go and sleep in the womb of my mother. Iha samsare bahudustare. That is what Krishna is saying. This samsara is bahudustara. It is never ending loop. So krupaya pare pahimurare. The only way we can break this cycle is to render in the loving devotion of service of the Lord, where the activities won't bind us to karma. So that is the principle that is given from the Shastras. If we do any other activity, we are bound to it. Even though you are doing philanthropic activities, extremely good activities. So we get the punya karma, basically the good credits. And the way you have to utilize that is like what I said, like you are born to some rich family, aristocratic family or so on, where you have to use those. And so that is actually like binding in its own way. Like we saw how like one of the sons of a famous superstar in India has like he was completely imprisoned because he caught up in some drugs case or so on. Like though they have enough money and fame, they cannot able to control it. So that is because of they have like excessive some good karma that has to be, you have to enjoy its merits. So anything that we do without serving unto Lord, with bhoga vritti, with a mood of enjoyment, will bind us to this loop, and we carry on in this, like what I said about the material world, and we try to find happiness here, we'll eventually be frustrated out, like that, like it takes life after life after life, life after life, so on. So the solution to break this is to cut it with acts of detachment. And there is one formula that is given. How we'll use the acts of detachment and cut it? So, is it possible for us to completely remove us from this and go away from the material world? So Shankaracharya actually tells on sloka in Bhagavatam itself. Satsangatve nissangatvam. Nissangatve nirmohatvam. Nirmohatve nischalatatvam. Nischalatatve jivan mukti, he says. So a devotee who is a jivan mukta, like who can live like amongst the material world, but is actually liberated. Actually, Ramanujacharya tells that only Videha Mukti is possible. Like in terms of one like engages in whatever Kainkarya that he does, and he leaves this body, takes up a spiritual body and go to Vaikuntha. But actually our Acharyas took this from Shankaracharya itself, and Rupa Goswami tells this, that Jivan Mukta is possible. That is, like if you are so engaged in the Lord's activities, Satsangatve, when you are coming in the association of the pure devotees, like we will see whenever we see Dravida Prabhu, Badrinath Maharaj, who have dedicated their life in like preaching or like by like rendering the service of the Lord. So Satsangatve, Nissangatvam, that will lead you to the material detachment. And Nissangatve, Nirmohatvam, whenever that Nissanga comes, we get Nirmoha. Nirmoha means disillusionment. That we don't run after these glittering things of the material world thinking that is all in all. Like there is so-called one king, the great, who led his last 10-15 years in going from this side of the continent to the other side. like a big pursuit and all. At the end, like there are some revelations he gives in terms of how whatever I did is waste. He tells like when you are taking my corpse, spread my wealth beside my dead body and let my like palms always show the sky. Like there are some things which are like Govardhan Prabhu told in one of the classes. Like because whatever he did is useless basically at the end of the life. So this is moha. That means we think of, oh, this is the correct thing that I have to pursue my life, but that's not what the goal of life that is recommended by scriptures. So when you come in the contact of the exalted Vaishnavas, nirmohatve nischal, first nirmohatvam will come, and then nirmohatve nischala tattvam. When the disillusionment is gone, you will be steady in devotional service. You will be steady. Like how we'll see some devotees who come every Saturday and like Rupa Manohar Prabhu or Mataji, like who sings are there. So like that, some steady services you take and you keep your life constantly in that. And nischala tattve, by engaging in steady devotional service, jivan mukti. You will live, you will traverse with other living beings as normal human being, but you are already liberated. Such glimpses we see from Srila Prabhupada's life story also, how he is a Jivan Mukta. So that is the weapon of detachment. One has to cut this strongly rooted tree. So then he says, Tatah padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuyaha. Krishna tells, it will come again, like yadgatva na nivartanti taddhama paramam mama. My dham, my spiritual abode, once you come, you will again not come back to this material world. So that should be the goal of this living being that we have to be. Like yasmin gata nanivartanti bhuyaha. With that goal we have to work towards, and from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. So that is the inverted banyan tree analogy that Krishna gave in like elucidating the difference between spiritual world and material world. And like the surrendering process Krishna is telling here, Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandair vimukta sukha dukkha samgnair gacchantya mudah padamavyayam tat. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who unbewildered know how to surrender unto Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom. So we saw in the previous 9th chapter and 10th chapter of the Gita also that one we have to work towards purifying this false prestige, illusion, false association, understanding the eternal. We have to make like endeavor towards getting into that perfect state. So how do we remove this false prestige, illusion and false association? One easy magic formula that is given by chanting the name of Lord. You saw like even we can sing it, we can chant it, and we can sing loudly with the Harinam and so on. So this is the Yuga Dharma that is given to us. By chanting, actually it purifies the mind, and then intelligence will be strengthened by hearing and reading about scriptures, and that's how we like our intelligence becomes strong, and then we do not fall into this moha, illusion and false association. We do not fall, and then by hearing from the very exalted Vaishnavas, like in Srimad Bhagavatam class and so on, we hear about the qualities of Lord Hari, his pastimes, about his abode and so on, and then we'll get the determination as to how to progress to that higher state, and that's how we have to progress in the path of bhakti. So on and on, over and over again is second half, that is Krishna is giving the ongoing process of birth and death, 7 to 11 he'll speak. So Krishna is describing the spiritual world, how it is. Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva na nivartante taddhama paramamama. Here it is said, yadgatva na nivartate. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to its this material world. So Krishna is telling about his Vaikuntha. Many people tell Krishna is a king, Ram is a king. No, there is no divinity corresponding to it. But you can clearly see in the words of Krishna that he is saying about his abode, which is not illumined by sun or moon or fire or electricity, and how, like who once reached will never return to this material world. He'll go on and on. Even in 9th chapter we saw how he was elucidating his Viswarupa form in like 10th and 11th chapter. So he shows his opulences, and that question of he being a normal living being, we should not even think about it. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here he speaks about like the 5 types of loving exchanges that Lord. So that is the difference between the material world and spiritual world. So like with Krishna, so like there are many schools of thoughts I told before, also many religions are there which speaks about God and living beings relationship. But one thing that is beautiful in Krishna consciousness that we came to know is that Lord is not that unknown entity, a big person with a beard or so on, where we cannot relate to, but he is that beautiful person where we can engage in loving devotional service. So there are like 5 types of loving exchanges that one can do. Like there is Dasyaras, there is Sakhyaras, there is Vatsalyaras, there is Madhuryaras, and so on. So here I will actually show about like Krishna will go on about like living beings' duties in the next verses, and there is another like in 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, more descriptions about the spiritual world is given. Okay. I thought it would be good to just go through those verses. So how Vaikunta is there? There is some descriptions here. Vasanti yatra purushaha sarve Vaikunta murtayaha ye nimitta nimittena dharmena aradhayan harim. In the Vaikunta planets, all the residents are similar in form to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They all engage in devotional service to the Lord without desire for sense gratification. They don't live to enjoy themselves, but they engage in loving devotional service of the God. So in Lakshmi Narayana and Vaikunta, you can see how everyone is serving. There are like a music troupe which is singing for the Lord, and so all that, like that waters, that flowers that flower, everything is to serve Lord Hari. Yatra chajyah pumanaste bhagavan sabda gocharaha sattvam vistabhya virajam swanam no mrudaya prushaha. In the Vaikunta planets is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the original person and who can be understood through the Vedic literature. He is full of uncontaminated mode of goodness with no place for passion or ignorance. He contributes the religious progress for the devotees. So this is one of the, like wherein from the morning they always engage in the Lord service. Yatra naisreyasam nama vanam kamadughair drumai sarvatra shribhir vibhrajat kaivalyam iva murtimat. In those Vaikunta planets there are many forests which are very auspicious. In those forests there are desire trees, and in all seasons they are filled with flowers and fruits, because everything in Vaikunta planets is spiritual and personal. A grass can speak, a flower can sing. So everything, there is no material entity in spiritual world. It's always like everything is spiritual and personal. And yeah, those forests are desire trees. Desire trees are kalpatarus. Like whatever you wish, that desire tree gives, like that. And the beauty of it is, like if we have a desire tree, suppose here in San Diego, we'll go and ask the stupid things that we want, that will make us happy, or that assume that we'll enjoy with it. Actually, we are doing it with the fruits or vegetables also. We want to cook a delicious thing for our own tongue's satisfaction. But in spiritual world, it's different. Everything that we do is to please Lord Hari. This we did. Next one. Paravatanya bhritasara sachakravaka Datyuha hamsa sukatitiri barhinam yaha kolahalo viramate chiramatra muchayir bhrangadipe harikathami vagayamane. When the king of bees hums in a high pitch, singing the glories of the Lord, there is a temporary lull in the noise of the pigeon, cuckoo, crane, chakravaka, swan, parrot, the partridge and the peacock. Such transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. See, one clear distinction we can see. Here in the material world, if we see anyone performing well, like in our jobs or duty, immediately we want him to not perform that good, or like because of the envy or so on. But here, if someone is like singing the Lord, even though then bee cuckoo is very talented in terms of very well equipped in terms of singing, but they all stop just to hear the bee hum and the like singing about the glories of the Lord. So the transcendental birds stop their own singing simply to hear the glories of the Lord. These are the verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. Maitreya Maharshi tells this to Vidura, and like these are the verses from Brahma in the third canto. So very nice verses these are. Mandara kunda kurabotpala champakarna punnaganaga bakulamba japari jataha gandher chite tulasika paranena tasya yasmim stapah sumanaso bahu manayanti. Although flowering plants like the Mandara, Kunda, Kurabaka, Utpala, Champaka, Arana, Punnaga, Nagakeshara, Bakula, Lily and Parijat are full of transcendental fragrance, they are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulasi, for Tulasi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with the Tulasi leaves. This is the Tulasi plant. So though there are all other things, the Tulasi is given highest like platform. Vaimanika salalanas-charitani shasvat gayanti yatra samalakshapanani bhartu antarjalenu vikasan madhumadhavinam gandhena kanditadiyopi anilam kshipantaha. In the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants fly in their airplanes, accompanied by their wives and consorts, and eternally sing of the character and activities of the Lord, which are always devoid of all inauspicious qualities. While singing the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of the blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey. Yatsankulam haripadanati matra drishtair vaiduryamarakata hema mayir vimanaih esham bruhat katitata smitasobhi mukhyaha krishnatmanam naraja adadhur utsmayatyaihi. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha travel in their airplanes made of lapis lazuli, emerald and gold. Although crowded by their consorts who have large hips and beautiful smiling faces, they cannot be stimulated to passion by their mirth and beautiful charms. So this is like Vaimanikaihi, the Vimanas that are present in spiritual world. And all of them always sing about the glories of the Lord. Yatra naisarga duruvairaha saha sandrumugadayah mitra nivajita vasa drutaruttarsha kadikam. Vrindavana is the transcendental abode of the Lord, where there is no hunger, anger or thirst. Though naturally inimical, both human beings and fierce animals live there together in transcendental friendship. So there won't be, in material world, we see that like a predator attacks the prey, and the prey always are in danger. But in spiritual world, all of them like happily sing. In even in the some of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also we can see that even in the forest, the wild animals stop, their fierceness and engage in playing with the Lord. So this is some of the descriptions that are given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So one second. So I will conclude with one last small theme, that is about the jivas that Krishna gives. I have to share this. So we saw like the qualities. So when living entities choose to serve Krishna, it is called akarma or devotional service. As I told, like how if they don't choose and engage in the bhogavriti, they always are trapped. So Krishna is giving the identity of the living entity. Mamai vamso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasasthanindriyani shashtandriyani 6 indriyani with including mind prakriti sthani karshati. So Krishna is elaborating how the jiva carrying the senses struggling in this world. He uses karshati. So 6 are like the 5 senses that we have, and like seeing, hearing, and like smell, touch, and taste with mind. Like we are trying to, as I told, like when there is an analogy of the horses and the chariot, where an uncontrolled mind is actually an enemy, which will make us run here and there, trying to pursue different sources of so-called happiness, but we are always frustrated. So that is how a jiva struggles. So the disparity in this world is how, when, as I told, rich, poor, strong, weak, beautiful and material ugliness and healthy distress, and these all come because of not understanding the underlying principles of soul's transmigration. So we have to be extremely cognizant of the thoughts and desires and things that are running in our mind right now, because those very things are actually forming our next body. So the whole process of devotional service is to like move our direction, that the compass towards temporary material things to that of permanent beautiful spiritual things that we saw. And Krishna actually tells Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudha anupasyanti. Like fools doesn't know these things. Pashyanti gnana chakshushaha yatanto yoginas chainam pasyantyatmanya avasthitam yatantopi akritatmano nayanam pasyanti achetasaha. So this is what, like a Muda doesn't see this distinction, and a yogis actually sees these distinctions in life and traverse carefully without engaging in the like material objects and getting frustrated and beaten up by the material world time and time again, but like engaging in devotional service in pursuit of that real goal, in achieving the divine abode of like Sri like Radha Krishna. So one of the beautiful process that is given to us is actually engaging in chanting of the holy name. That is the Yuga Dharma that is given to us. So like I told in the previous class also, like Manah Trayate mantra, any mantra, like mind catches all these unwanted things, even the desires, hankerings, and all that it catches and holds. Like I told one example, like if I give you this kartal and ask you to hold it, it might not be heavy. But say if I ask you to hold it for 2 hours or 3 hours, it starts getting heavier, right? So that is exactly what mind does in terms of catching and holding all the negative things and negative, people, it will drag us into these unwanted paths. The only thing that we should do is chant the mantra. When you do mantra, there are 2 definitions. Manahtrayate mantra, like the mind delivers, like it immediately like leaves all these things and catches onto the mantra. And manna trayate mantra, that is like when you are constantly doing the japa, then eventually that purification begins, and then we'll get more and more purified. Our heart becomes softer, and we can actually appreciate the presence of Lord in our daily lives. And with this I'll stop today's class, and anyone has any comments or questions you can ask. I'll be here, and within like now prasadam will be served, and 8:15 we have like darshan that is open, and you can take darshan of the Lord, and that's it. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Jai Jai. Thanks.